Hi, and welcome to another episode of Adaptation Podcast Vlog. I'm your host, Dorin. Yep, it's me again. And this time, I'm going to be dreamcasting the first book in a series, which, depending on who you ask or where you look, is either the Gatekeeper series or the Power of Five series. But the book I'm talking about is Ravensgate by Anthony Horowitz. Might as well just start with the main character, Matthew Freeman. He is described as short dark hair, blue eyes, broad shoulders, and is a 14-year-old who is built like a model or footballer. Now, of course, I'm talking real football, not American football. I picked somebody that I think deserves a second chance, and that is Levi Miller. Levi Miller was Peter Pan in the movie Pan, cue the booze. That movie was really terrible. I'm not going to hold it against him. So as Peter Pan, he kind of had this like muscular little kid look. Now, he's only 13. I think that they could build him up to be the right body type for Matthew Freeman. So I'd like to give Levi Miller another chance to be the main character in something that maybe put together a little better than Pan. So let's talk Matthew Freeman's aunt, Gwenda Davis. She's described as a crumpled, sullen-looking woman with mousy hair and a pinched, forgettable face. The person I picked for Gwenda Davis is Miranda Hart. She's pretty well known in the British acting community, and I don't want to say she's a quirky character actress, but she has played quirky characters. Let's move on to the antagonist, shall we? Our main antagonist is Mrs. Jane Deverell. Spoiler alert, she's a heartless witch. And I don't mean that as a euphemism, she's literally a witch. She's described as wrinkly skin, dead eyes, and white hair, with a raspy voice. The person I really wanted to cast was Stephanie Cole. I've seen her do heartless and not cruel, but brash. She's sort of a highly rated, highly sought after actress, so it'd be really hard to get her, but I would love it if I could. Noah is Jane Deverell's sort of farmhand, and he seems to have been around for a long time. And this is where I have to apologize to anybody I cast, but he's fat, greasy, and creepy, and kind of a lumbering idiot. The person I chose for this is Mark Addy. You may recognize him as King Baratheon on Game of Thrones. I think Mark Addy encompasses what I'm looking for. Another character who's trying to help Matt is Stephen Mallory, who is the superintendent of the police and is kind of heading his case. I imagined a handsome black man with a very strong presence. So for this, I chose Nonso Anansi, another person you may recognize from Game of Thrones, but of course he's done a lot of things, and he just sort of seems like the head of policeman type, and I can imagine him saying like, yes, Matt, I'm going to get you out of here. These conditions are awful, kind of thing. And then, well, you read the book. So let's move on to Richard Cole, a journalist who also helps Matt. Tall, blonde, blue eyes, a serious but intelligent face, sort of like a young Sherlock. Now, my first thought was Paul Bettany, but of course, Richard Cole is supposed to be 35 and Paul Bettany is 45. I actually decided after doing some research that I think that Dan Stevens from Downton Abbey would be much better. I haven't actually seen him do anything since he left Downton Abbey, and I'm pretty sure he left to do things. And I think that he really, just look at him. He fits the bill, right? Sir Michael Marsh. I don't want to give anything away, but I suppose that anybody who's watching this would have already read the book. But you know, he's supposed to look like the kind of guy who you can trust, but then you find out that you can't. I kind of imagine him as a silver fox. Maybe longerish hair, and of course he has to be old enough to have been in the science gig for at least 20 years, probably longer. So I figured the best person for this would be Bill Nighy. I think that he is very attractive. He's been in a billion things. Like, do I even have to explain why I would choose him? I mean, there's Shaun of the Dead and Love Actually, Underworld. Bill Nighy just kind of fits, not gonna say fits the bill. He just fits the part. He's what you would expect. Now let's quickly run through the Nexus. To be fair, I'm not gonna run through some of the characters that they have names later, but they don't have names now. So let's just do the main people for Ravensgate. First we have Miss Susan Ashwood. She's blind, in her late 30s, with short, like a cut short black hair. The person that I chose for this is Christina Cole. If you've read the book, Ms. Susan Ashwood is not so much a witch, but a medium. She's supposed to have like a chiseled face, and that's what I see in Christina Cole. Now we also have Mr. Fabian, who doesn't have a huge part in the first book, but I know he's got a big part in later books, which of course I guess the rest of the Nexus does too. But Mr. Fabian at least has a name in this book. And there was really only one person that I could imagine for this, and that was Amari Nalesko. He's done a lot more American TV, so he's probably a face that you've seen but didn't know who he was. I think that he could do this really well. Last but not least, we have Professor Sanjay Dravid. He's an Indian man who works at the Natural History Museum, so he's super brainy, and is in his late 40s and is very dark-skinned. So the person I thought could really pull this off is Naveen Andrews. He's a strong actor, and I feel like he could do everything from somebody who's militant, like he was in Lost, to somebody who's just a scientist. A scientist, and yet somebody who deals with the supernatural. So that's it for this Dreamcast. If you have read the book, which I hope you have, hopefully you can kind of see where I was going with a lot of these actors and actresses that I cast. If you feel like I didn't really explain myself well, please let me know in the comments below, or on any of our social media platforms. We're on Tumblr, Twitter, Facebook, or you could even just go to adaptationpodcast.com. We always love to hear your feedback. So for now, this is Dorin Roofer, signing off.